to another, or communities coming against each other. And they still continue. If we look at some of the borders, like now in Turkana, we still have places where there's a lot of animosity and fighting. So are we just an angry nation? And what might be the solution? First of all, we'll start with the cause, then the solution. Joining me to have that conversation, I have Reverend Lois Manundu, who is also an author of a book known as The Healing Power of Forgiveness. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Mike.
Now, did I describe that correctly? Are we generally an angry nation from where you're sitting?
That's true. At some point, not as it was before, like 10 years before, but still, you find that in our nation, there's a kind of anger that still goes on after the 2007, 2008 election time.
Post-election violence.
Right. Mm-hmm. There was this post-election violence. And when I was writing my book, actually it was triggered by the post-election violence.
In 2007? In
2007. Mm-hmm. I'm a preacher, and a time came and I noticed that there was a lot of anger that is going on in the country. And not only in the country, in myself as a person, I realized that I was just as angry as any other person, yet I am there to help people to get out of this anger. Mm-hmm. And the Lord spoke to me that I should preach the gospel of forgiveness, because much of what was going on was because of unresolved issues.
Okay, let's start with you. What is it that made you angry? Or what made you feel that you're angry at that point?
You know, many times when we are electing leaders, so there are times you feel that, no, we need this leader, and or we need that other leader, and we see some leaders behaving funny and behaving so unfairly to people. And when it came and there was a lot of anger in the people because they thought things were not fair, what was going on was not fair, and people started fighting each other. So in that case, I started feeling, no, I'm also angry. This should be like this. This should be like this. So I found myself feeling bitter because of many people and of leaders, you know, who were causing us to cross one another and to fight one another.
And so, now that you bring that up, during the 2007-2008 post-election violence, one of the things that was highlighted is that the church, if I can refer to it as that, generally took sides. And that was one of the biggest problems that we've had as a country. Right. Because we would have expected the church to be neutral. Right. And do you agree?
I agree. I agree, Mike. The church, one thing people should remember is that the church is composed of people. And people are human. We are not superhuman. We are not immortal beings. We are still human. I as a pastor, I'm just as human as you are. And I get angry when things are done wrong. But what the church did, the church became also bitter and forgot that they were supposed to bring people together. So the church started also fighting the church. You found that this spirit of fighting and hate and anger was also in the church. That's why you could see that people didn't care whether there is a church or not. They were fighting even the church and burning the churches also, which was really bad.
Now, that is post-election violence, but we've also seen a rise in cases of murder from what we'd call either spouses or loved ones. People who are once intimate end up becoming their biggest enemies. What is the cause of that?
The cause of this is unresolved conflicts. People, many times we start getting angry without going to the root of the problem. So many times what we are lacking is getting sober, coming to a point of listening and waiting and looking, finding where the problem is. And much of the problem that you see in our families, in marriages, in relationships, is an unresolved conflicts. And that is what we need to look for. And I believe that is the same thing that was in the church, even during the post-election violence. I believe that is the same problem even in the government and in some levels and institutions. It's the same thing. When there is something that is unresolved, it is very easy for people to forget and look at the anger, look at the problem without looking at the solution. There's always a solution to every problem.
Okay, and interesting you bring that up, because one of the things that keeps coming up again and again, especially when we get to our 5-year cycle of election, is historical injustices, which seem to never be addressed. How does it help us when we address those in terms of overcoming them? Because like you've mentioned, one of the things that maybe comes in even in a relationship between spouses, and they get to a point where they kill each other. That's something that when you're not in that space, you cannot understand it. That two people who once loved each other get to a point where there's so much hate and animosity that they become a killer.
Mike, I think what we need most is teaching and causing awareness of issues. Many times we get into problems because we have no people to tell us what to do. And the people who are supposed to tell us what to do, they are also in it. But this time there's a call of people saying, come on, things cannot go the way they are always going. We need to have a change. We need to impart a change. And so people need to be educated, and people need to be told that there's a solution. You know, like when we are coming to elections, there must be awareness, there must be education. The leaders must know how to let people know things can still be peaceful even when people don't agree. People need to know that even when you don't agree on an issue, you don't have to fight, Mike. If it is husband and wife, we don't have to fight. We need to agree to disagree, and life goes on. So our solutions should not always be fighting and abusing and hating, because we have very short time in this world, very, very short time. We cannot afford to spend it in anger and bitterness.
And I would imagine that's where now the church should come in terms of teaching, because where else do we get this information? Depending, all of us grow up in different environments. Some of us grow up in very angry environments where you have two parents who are fighting, and you begin to think that is just normal.
And that's where the church comes in now. I want to challenge the church, and not only the church, but also religious bodies. We need to start teaching people how to live together. We need to start teaching people good moral standards, living together, and solving problems together, and forgiving one another, so that as we forgive, as we solve issues, things will start bringing light. And you know what? When the church turns to its work and to concentrate on what God has called it to do, then things will be all right in this country. I believe that the church has already done a lot, Mike. When I talk of this, I'm not saying that the church has done a lot. Because when we look back during the post-election violence, the church started mobilizing the country to prayer. I remember in my own church, I started to mobilize groups and the churches so to pray for the government, because one, the church has a mandate to pray for the government, for the leaders that are there, without prejudice, without falling on one side. The problem that we make, the mistakes that we make, is to start praying one-sided prayers. Because I don't belong to this party, I need to pray for this one to succeed.
And almost praying against the other one.
And also praying against the other one is very bad.
Do you think the church has been vocal enough? Because when I look at the landscape, I'll take an example of what the president and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga have done with the handshake. Literally bringing also a sense of calm. Do you feel that should have been a role possibly highlighted, first of all, by the church? And if the church would even encourage that more? It seems to have been very silent when all that was happening. Again, we've been led by politicians.
Mike, so, though it looked silent, I believe the church was doing something also, because the church was praying. all over the country. We were moving all over the country, praying for peace for this country. And because there are some levels, at some point, we can't go in the forefront so much in the beginning because we need the permission, you know, even to go. But there are some levels we can't reach. But at least the church has been teaching this about people loving and accommodating one another. I believe even the point of the handshake must have been God-driven, you know, action. Because the church prayed for solutions to come. And as we were praying, God touched the leaders. And by the way, I salute our leaders. They heard the voice of God. This handshake was not just something that just
came out of the blues.
Come out of the blues. I believe these leaders, with the wisdom that God has given them, they came to a point where they felt now it's a matter of life and death. The world is looking at us. We are the one to bring solution. And they said they will not listen to what is around them. They will listen to what is right. And out of the conviction of the heart, our leaders came together. Privately, they came together. I salute those guys.
For what they did.
For what they did. Because the world could not believe what was happening. The world was waiting to see bloodshed. Kenya was waiting to see bloodshed and a lot of fighting and a lot of violence. But God turned things the other way around. Why? Because the church was on their knees. We were not sleeping, Mike. We were praying day and night. And where possible, we were preaching the same gospel. Little did we know that God has answered prayers.
All right, and let's talk solutions now. An angry nation we seem to be for one reason or the other. You've mentioned the cause here could be unresolved issues. What is our solution?
The solution is forgiveness. It's a simple thing, but it's something that moves mountains. Let me say it's husband and wife. I have wronged you. You feel that I have done injustice to you. We need to sit down and forgive one another. The spirit of handshake must move from the top downwards.
Although that's easier said than done, it's not that easy to forgive. Sometimes, especially when I feel I have been wronged, when I feel I am the one who is right, how do I get to that point of forgiveness?
It is not easy, yes, it is not easy. But at some point, you must decide things cannot continue to be the way they are. I need to get sober. I need to come to a point of equilibrium where I can balance things. You know, nobody's perfect in this world. If it's husband and wife, there will always be conflict of some kind. I always tell people this: marriage is not a bed of roses. There are still things that come and we don't agree.
Yeah, they say on that bed of roses there are thorns. So
there can be thorns. Where there are roses, there are thorns too. So we must see that and decide that because the thorns are there, okay, what do we do? This is the way we should go. Agree to disagree. Respect one another. We need to respect one another. We need to respect one another's views about life. If it is something between the government and the parties, you know, there's no party that will congratulate the other. Many times it is so hard. Every party will speak about their best way of leading. The other party, even if they do a right thing, you will find that the other party is not congratulating the other one. Because I want to win, I want to win, I want to be the best.
Reverend, how do I get to that point of forgiveness? Because it's good to know that that is a solution, forgiveness. But to get there is not easy. As you'll agree with me, there are times you've even had a situation where maybe somebody wronged you and you felt you were right. But to get to that point of forgiveness, how do I get there?
We need to know one thing, Mike. Forgiveness is a level of maturity. We need to mature and know that forgiveness is a point of strength, not weakness. When I come to you and I tell you, I am sorry, Mike, I have wronged you, it does not mean I am weak. You may be the one who has wronged me, but I can decide to tell you I am sorry. Because the word sorry will melt a hard heart, even if your heart is as hard as a stone, it will melt. When I come to you and tell you, Mike, you know what? I am sorry, Bwana. Let us solve this problem.
In fact, the Bible says a soft answer turns away wrath.
Yes, a soft answer will turn away wrath. And you'll find that Allah, what we thought was an issue, is not a big issue after all. We can still make things look better, and we can still make life go smooth and better. We can make life better for one another in this world. My life is too short to be spent in bitterness and anger. For how long will I carry you on my shoulders? Always bitter, yet you are enjoying where you are. I want to tell people one thing. When they are bitter to one another, if I am bitter because somebody wronged me 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 2 years ago, do you know what I am carrying is so heavy? Yet the person you are angry about is moving around with life, and the third person is happy, but you are still carrying the person here. And many times you will find that you are not angry with one person. You are angry with Peter here. You are angry with Jane. You are angry with your neighbor. You are angry with a watchman. You are angry with your boss. You are angry with your mother. You are carrying people on your shoulders, yet those people do not know that. They are enjoying life, and you are stewing yourself in your own juices. You need to let loose, let people, let people go.
Let them go.
Yeah,
now,
remove them from your...
What advice would you give to communities? Because in this country, one of the things that divides us most is actually not even communities. Let's call them tribes.
Yeah.
And like you've mentioned, one of the reasons why we have this war and anger is unresolved issues or historical injustices. What advice would you give to communities when it comes to forgiving one another?
Let me start here. Unforgiveness retards development. Any community that is angry with the other, there will always be retardation of development. And I would like to advise our communities to start resolving their problems, because an angry nation is a nation that is going down. But when we start accommodating things and forgiving people, we will find that development is getting in, is coming in. Many communities don't develop because they don't love one another. They are fighting. I want to go and steal those gods because they belong to us. I want to steal those cows because they belong to us. You feel that you own.
Entitlement.
And you have entitlement to that. But this is the time we know we are in this world. And whatever is in this world is ours. And because it's ours, why can't we share it? Let me give the example of the Bible. The first church, or the early church, shared everything that they had. They were meeting together. After Jesus went back to heaven, the early church was meeting together, sharing together, looking at the needs that anybody has, and they share those needs. Today, everybody is saying, this is mine. It is I. It is me. It is myself. People are thinking about themselves. They don't think about a neighbor. Yet, this world, we are not living here forever. We are moving. And the worst thing is for you, Mike, to own everything to yourself. Tomorrow you die, and God forbid. Tomorrow you die and leave everything that you were holding. And this thing that you were holding, you have not enjoyed it. You leave people enjoying it, and some people don't even deserve it. They enjoy it when you are down here. So we need to love each other as communities and help one another. And when the communities are together, you will find that even the work of our leaders is easy. It's not as bad. They find life to be easier. Sometimes we give our leaders hard time. Sometimes they actually don't know what to do. Because down there at the roots, we are fighting. They don't know how to help to help us. So I challenge our communities to start thinking about this so that we may develop. We don't need to stay like birikimos, staying in one place. We want to grow tall and move forward and stop being called the third world. We can still become the first
We
world.
certainly have the potential to do that. All right,
Yes,
we need to wind up.
can.
Tell me about your book, The
Yeah.
Healing Power of Forgiveness, which I believe you're launching today.
Yeah, I'm launching this book today.
What is it that I'll get from this book if I bought it and read it?
If you get this book, Mike, you will learn a lot about the nation, about the anger that is in the nation and how to resolve it. You will also learn about how to make resolutions and resolve conflicts in marriages. There's a whole chapter on marriages. You will find that there's another chapter about relationships. You know, any kind of relationship. If we are angry at one another, how can we solve our problems and continue with life? You will find it there. You will find examples of great people who came and some of them were non-Christians, some of them were non-Muslims, some of them were, but you will find those guys, somehow God moved them, they called people together and they told them to solve our problems is to forgive one another. The healing balm is forgiving. Once you forgive, you will find that things are good. It's hard, as you said from the beginning, it is hard to forgive. But do you know you can decide to forgive? You can make a decision. Do you know that if you are a Christian or from whatever religion, do you know you can pray for God to give you the strength to forgive? There are times we cannot forgive on our own. There are times we ask for God's grace to help us to forgive somebody. And you will find that God works in mysterious ways. And you find yourself forgiving people you could not imagine you can forgive. You can forgive the unforgivable. If Jesus forgave our sins when we were so evil, so bad, we even went and crucified him. He came, he healed us, he provided food for us, he did miracles. But within no time, we forgot and we said, crucify him. A good leader will always be fought. That is one thing I want to challenge the leaders, and I want to encourage the leaders. As long as you are a good leader, you will always find opposition. You will always find people hating you.
For doing good.
Yes, for doing good. Jesus did good, but they sacrificed him. But eventually, he won the battle. We can win the battle even now by forgiving.
All right, and maybe just to mention the healing power or the healing end of forgiveness, because this way it is you carrying those people, like you mentioned, the example you gave. But when you forgive, you are the one that benefits.
Yeah. By the way, when you forgive somebody, actually you are healing your soul. You are healing yourself. They may have done so bad to you. But once you forgive, can I give you an example? We see the killings that are happening, like the killing of Sharon, the killing of Monica, and the killing of other many people. Many things are happening. Parents are hurting. Friends are hurting because they are angry. Why did this happen to me? Why did this happen to my daughter? What I can encourage them is this. The first and foremost solution to everything starts with forgiveness. Ask God to help you to release those people. The moment you release them, the moment the healing starts coming to you. God works in mysterious ways. How that happens, I may not even tell you how. God himself knows. But one thing I know, once you forgive and release, God starts bringing solutions. You start getting new revelations on how to go about matters. You will find that even the ones that are standing for you as judges, as advocates, God will give them great wisdom on how to go about your issues. And you know what? God is a just God. He will always stand for you. He will always fight your battles. The Bible says to the righteous, the battle is not yours, the battle belongs to me, says the Lord. Mike, if you have a battle, if you have some kind of battle, can you release them to God and tell God to heal people? Tell God you release people. You don't want to go to the grave carrying people on your shoulders.
On your shoulders.
For how long will you carry them? Release them and continue with life.
Reverend Lois Manundu, I think we could listen to this literally all day, but because of time, we'll have to wind it up right there.
Right.
The book launch is today. Where is that going to be happening in case somebody wanted to come for it?
Yeah, the book launch is today at 5:30 at All Saints Cathedral. You are all welcome. I welcome everybody to come and listen more when there is more time there. We shall have wonderful time there, and we shall be happy to see all of you coming.
All right,
to
and the book
celebrate
that she's talking about here is The Healing Power of Forgiveness. And remember, this is possibly something that the country, not possibly, but the country does need it. We have become a very, very angry nation, and over